You are listening to All Burgundy and Gold, everything powered by the Urban Sports Team and Fox Sports Radio 96.9 FM, 1340 AM, Hopewell, Virginia. I'm your host, Glenn. Mo, Ray, and Wole is out. They left me with the keys to the car. And I'm about to run this bad boy. Hey, make sure you hit the subscribe button on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and search All Burgundy and Gold, everything. Also, tweet us at ABG_everything. Hit us up on IG at ABG_everything. Also, like our All Burgundy and Gold Facebook page. Make sure you subscribe to All Burgundy and Gold on YouTube as well. Make sure if you're watching YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification, go ahead and share it with somebody else. It's time for the pregame. This is what we got on tap tonight. We're talking about the free agency moves of the Washington Commanders in the past week. The Washington Commanders are still making moves. Adam Peters is still making moves. They're making moves. They're making people scratch their head. Y'all know y'all been scratching your head ever since the name Jeff Driscoll has came up in your timeline, since it came up on Twitter, since it came up on your Instagram, since it came up on your Bleacher Report. Since it came up on anything, you've been scratching your head like, what is the Washington Commanders doing looking at Jeff Driscoll, and why would the Commanders have 4 quarterbacks on their roster? Well, we're going to talk about it today. But once again, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification. Let's hop into it. The Washington Commanders have been making moves since early January. If you have not been following the Washington Commanders have been making moves since January the 2nd. Ever since they could start making moves on their roster, they've been making transitions. They've been making acquisitions. They've been signing people to deals and contracts. Just within the last few weeks alone, the month of March has been busy for the Washington Commanders. They released Charles Leno. They released Logan Thomas. They released Nick Gates. They signed Zach Ertz on March 6th. They re-signed Abada on the 14th. Then they went on the 15th of March when free agency really opened up. They just made a big splash by signing linebacker Anthony Pittman. They signed Nick Algetis from the guard from the Kansas City Chiefs. Obata came back. They saved Armstrong. They signed Jeremy Chin, who's a safety there. They got Frank Lavea. They got Marcus Mariota came in. Brandon Manis came. You had Tyler Battis who came. Dante Fuller, the center there, came. You had Jeremy Reeves who came. Middle linebacker Bobby Wagner, which I think is the best pick there is so far, who came. And they still been making splashes throughout. Signing a person here, signing a person there. They signed cornerback James Pierre on March 21st. They signed Michael Detler to a contract. They signed, Cornelius Lucas to a 1-year deal, right? Offensive tackle. Adam Peters not playing around. They're making some moves. And here on this week, April 1st, a lot of y'all thought it was an April Fool's joke, right? You thought it was a big joke that was coming into play. You thought they was going to make a joke when they signed Jeff Driscoll. And a lot of people don't understand the signing of Jeff Driscoll. Let's break it down. Jeff Driscoll is not signed for the Washington Commanders to be a starting quarterback, right? He's not signed to be the starting quarterback of the Washington Commanders. He's not even signed to be the backup quarterback for the Washington Commanders. He's signed to go against Jake Fromm and to see who's going to be the number 3 guy, right? We know that Washington, we talked about it extensively on the past few episodes of a show of what the Washington Commanders are going to do as second number 2 pick. We talked about J.J. McCarthy. We talked about Jaden Daniels. If somehow Chicago bumps their head and the world turns around, the eclipse messes up Caleb Williams, which that's not going to happen. But we talked about Drake May, right? So we know that Washington's going to have a shot at number 2 quarterback, and whoever that number 2 quarterback is will be fighting for a starting job with Marcus Mariota. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But Washington does need to find a 3rd quarterback. Some teams carry 3 quarterbacks on the roster, and I think Washington needs that 3rd quarterback in Jake Fromm, which he excelled a little bit last year. Terrible. I got kicked out of my own studio. But the only quarterback left on the roster from last year, right? So we see that, right? He's the only quarterback left on the roster from last year. Sam Howell, gone. Boom. Jacoby Brissett gone, right? So Jake Fromm is there. So they got to see who will the quarterback be, who the third guy is going to be on this roster. And Jeff Driscoll, a veteran or journeyman who's been around for a while, who's been in and out of different systems. He played in Detroit. He's been to Denver. He's been in San Francisco. Now he's coming to Washington. Again, not to be a starter, but just to be able to learn in the room, just to see if he can be the number 3 guy to make a roster. And I think what Adam Peters is doing, even some of the guys that I named earlier that he's bringing back, everybody don't have a starting spot, right? Some people that are locked in for starters on this Washington team, right? But he's building competition in the room. He's bringing competition. He's having guys compete. If you ever want a big team or you want a team to be successful, you want a team to achieve greatness or move out of the bottom, right? The cellar dwellers, right? You got to create competition. Look what happened in Detroit. They started creating competition. Competition started. The locker room changed. The mindset of the organization changed. Things begin to become different. And so it has to become a difference in the Washington Commanders locker room. So you bring players in who will be competing for starting jobs, right? Who will come in and be in a rotating system, have a good backup, have some depth chart. You know, some of you guys, everybody was scratching their heads like, why are you bringing Zacchaeus, right, from the Philadelphia Eagles? Again, he's 5'9", I think it's 190, I believe. He's not there to start for a starting job. He's there to compete. He's there to see, hey, can I break into the roster? Can I learn the offense? Can I be able to try to a special team guy, maybe take a job? Been in the league too long, right? But can I compete for a job? Sure, you can compete. Let's push a receiver. Let's push somebody, right? Yami Brown. Let's push these guys so they can be a little bit greater, all right? So it's not just the same as usual. I got my stuff. You want guys to be able to compete. You want guys to be able to excel. And I think this is what the organization is doing by bringing in, again, they brought in another running back this week, right? You already have you already have Eckler. You already have Rodriguez. Rodriguez. You already have Brian Robinson. And you can bring in another running back, right? Jeremy Mickle. So you bring in another running back. Why? Lynn brings him in because he was in San Francisco with him, and you want somebody to compete, right? It becomes competition. And when you have competition, it gets everybody better. And then, again, we know injuries happen. Injuries happen in this league on a regular basis, but you want somebody to be there. Bringing another linebacker in. Why? Because you want to put, this is what I like to see by the Commanders offense, right? What I like to see by the Commanders team and Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and the staff. Bring people in because at the end of the day, you want the best 11 dudes on the field. You want the best 11 guys. If the best 11 guys is in the house, I don't care what their big name is. I don't care how much contract money they make, whatever the case may be. You want the best 11 dudes, the dudes that's going to perform each and every week. Dudes are not going to give up sacks if there's an offensive lineman, right? That's going to continue to push down the field. If you're a running back, that's not going to put the ball on the ground like Antonio Gibson did. If you're a tight end, you're not going to miss catches like Logan Thomas did. You hold people to a standard. You hold them accountable, and that's what I like to see. That's what we see now about this staff. Then being aggressive, they're being super aggressive in free agency, right? Build it in free agency. You got cap space, you got cap room, right? I think they still got left over $60-some million left to be able to go get people and see how things can play and move. So again, they're still working this thing. Because again, even people say, "Oh, the draft." Yeah, the draft is fine. You want to build for the future, but some of the draft players may not be able to play right now, right? You get the guy in the 5th round, he may not be able to play right now. The guy in the 3rd round should be able to get into the lineup, but he may not be able to get in the lineup. Your first 2 picks, your 1st round pick and your 2nd round pick should get in it. We saw that last year, right? Forbes, right? Number 1 pick. Got benched around about week 4, right? Wasn't ready to play. Some people say Ron Rivera put him in a bad situation. Nah, he put himself in a bad situation by some of his play. Some of the time he took chances when he was supposed to. His mindset, again, it becomes a want to. So everybody, you got to have depth. You got to have people behind you, right? Behind a position in order to move forward. And that's what the Commanders are doing. Enjoy it right now. If they're moving in the right direction. Is this team where you needed to be at yet? No, but the paper looks good. It looks good on paper. And that's all you want right now. This time of year, you want it to look good on paper as you move into the draft, right? Then when you get in the draft, you say, no, that looks a little bit better. Then you get into OTAs and you're like, you know what? I see the quality of athlete that we have. Because people said it when Terry McLaurin came. Oh, it looks good on paper. Yeah, Terry McLaurin. But when you start seeing him in OTAs and rookie minicamp and you start seeing the things that he started doing, it got better, right? It got better. And so it's get fast paced. So I think a lot of the guys that are coming in now are proving. A lot of the guys now who are coming in and they're going to change what the locker room has been. They're going to make it competitive. We celebrated Sean Taylor, right, birthday over the past couple of weeks, right? A couple of weeks ago, a couple of days ago. And what that dude did when he came to Washington, he changed the locker room, right? The culture was changed because of the way he played, what he had in his mindset. I'm not saying none of these guys are Sean Taylor, but what I'm saying is this, that when you come into a room and when you come into a arena, when you come into a new situation or when you come into a new place, you got a new head coach, first impressions make a big difference. And so when all these new guys who are coming in, they have an opportunity to set the culture, right? Regardless of where you've been at, the past is the past, regardless of what happened last year, regardless of what happened with Ron Rivera, regardless of what happened, doesn't matter what happened with Jay Gruden, doesn't matter what happened, anybody in the past, when they walk in the doors and they walk into Ashburn and when they walk into the facility and when they walk with Dan Quinn, what happens, the mindset of the new team or the nice mindset of the people that he's bringing in, you got to bring in dogs. You got to bring in people who's willing to compete and knowing and not lying to them and understand they're going to compete for the job. They're competing for a position. They're competing for a roster spot. And let all the chips fall. Jeff Driscoll is competing for a roster spot. That's all. Done deal. Nothing else, nothing more. All right? Nichols competing for a roster spot. Zach Keyes competing for a roster spot. That's what you want. They're pushing people. Push. Learn the playbook. Because what happened? This team didn't have depth. They hadn't had depth. And now you're getting the depth, right? You're getting people. There's people that staying in place. The Jonathan Allens are staying, right? Your Deron Paynes are staying. They got to step up. Your Bobby Wagner's coming in because when he steps in a room, he's a dog. He steps in a room. This is what I'm going to make sure the linebacker core is straight. Somebody got to take the D-line, have the D-line responsibility, right? Somebody had to be the dog when it comes to the corners. And you're bringing guys in. Jeremy Chin as being the safety. Like, hey, let me be that guy. The question here is who's going to be the guy for Washington, right? Who's going to be the dog for Washington this year as Washington comes up, right? They bring all the new free agents in, got to mix the pot, and that's the fun thing about it. Y'all can admit it's the fun thing about it. All the new pieces. It's April, and we're still excited about the Washington Commanders. The draft hasn't even gotten here yet, and we're talking about what the roster is going to look like, right? This team have not been, knock on wood, has not been any scandals since new ownership has taken over, right? There's been nothing but positive things since new ownership has taken over. Everything has been positive. Things are moving in the right direction. The name FedEx may go away. That's good. Positive thing. Bring somebody else in. Talks are starting to come up again about the stadium. Positive things. So there's a positivity and a new excitement around this organization. And that's the way you build championship. Nobody's talking bad about when San Francisco. You don't hear all the negativity, right? You don't hear all that. When New England was doing what they was doing, when New England was winning championships, you didn't hear all the negativity. There was nothing crazy going on in the organization. But again, there's nothing crazy here. The clean slate, new people in, new attitude, new mindset is going to be in a place. Now, will everybody pan out? Probably not, right? Everybody's not going to pan out. Every roster spot, every draft, every free agency acquisition be where they're supposed to be at? Probably not, but they're competing. And that's what you look for. You want competition. You want those to be able to battle each and every day. You got new faces here. You got Michael Walker, linebacker from Atlanta, who also has some time in Pittsburgh. Young guy coming in, competing for a linebacker spot. Why not be there, right? Can't get any worse. Cody Barton. You got a young kid. I mean, Michael came out of Fresno State, fourth round pick. Hey, come in and try to get a spot. Come in and try to be a dog. Come in and try to learn. Sit there and learn from a Bobby Wagner, so your game can elevate. A Jamin Davis, learn from a Bobby Wagner, so your game can elevate. The people that they're bringing in, again, some of these seasoned veterans, is going to make some of the younger guys that much better. That much better. And that's what you're looking for. What you guys think? Do you like what Adam Peters is doing so far in free agency? Do you like what Dan Quinn is doing so far in free agency? Is Jeremy, all the people they're bringing in, do you think they're able to help the Washington Commanders team? Drop a comment in the chat box. Let me know. Let's have a conversation. Do you think Washington is doing a good job in free agency? What grade would you give Washington so far in free agency? All right, with all the people that they brought in, have they met the needs that you're looking for? Right, I think they met a lot of the needs. Right, in free agency with all the moves they're making, I think they made some moves with the offensive line. They made some moves, in my opinion, with the linebackers, which we know was weak. The offensive line needs to keep a quarterback up, whoever your rookie quarterback is. Right, whether you're gonna throw the ball, run the ball, do a combination of both, or have some balance. You have to be able to keep the quarterback upright. Whether it's Drake May, whether it's Jaden Daniels, whether it's J.J. McCarthy. So I think the old line has improved. They brought some good acquisitions in. Linebackers needed to improve. They brought some good guys in. All right, safety, can't complain. I think the safeties have gotten better. Right, I think the safeties have gotten better with some of the acquisitions that they made at safety. They brought some good guys in who's going to help the organization, who's going to hold people accountable, who's going to make them better. And that's one of the things that you look for. So again, hit me up. Let me know what do you think? Which area do you think the Washington Commanders so far in free agency have proved the best? Right. Look at the running back group right now. The running back group is a good running back group that they have in right now. You got Austin Eckler. You got Brian Robinson. Chris Rodriguez. So you have a good running back group. You got some power. You got some speed. You got some backs that come out of the backfield. You got people that can catch. If you're a fantasy guy, Austin Eckler scores touchdowns, right? So he hangs on to the football. He's coming out of the backfield, being able to catch some balls. Brian Robinson got better at catching out of the backfield last year. Also has some power, right? Was able to be elusive last year. Rodriguez was able to maneuver, put the ball on the ground a couple of times, but again, didn't fumble in college. So again, the Anthony Lynn having a good running back core, a good running back room is only going to make this team better. All right. When you got a veteran like Marcus Mariota pushing whoever the young guy is going to make the young quarterback that much better, right? He's telling them how to work out. Give them. No one's ever talked about how Marcus Mariota is a very smart quarterback. He's a smart guy. He understands the systems, he understands the room, understand how to groom other quarterbacks because he's been in different systems. He's been that backup guy. He's been the starting guy. No one's ever said anything bad about Marcus Mariota not understanding the game. So that quarterback room is going to be that much better. And the Washington Commanders will, you'll see that, right? I know some people were, hey, Sam Howell had to go. I like how they're getting some of the things that were a problem for the Washington Commanders out of the house, right? Sam Howell was good for the Washington Commanders last year. They didn't use him right. Eric Bieniemy, you blame it on Eric Bieniemy, blame it on Ron Rivera, blame it on whoever. It just didn't work. It didn't work, and they had to move on. So again, though that's the thing you look for, right? Free agency has been good. Free agency has been good for the Washington Commanders, and what they brought in. You can see the change, right? In the change. But again, back to what we originally talked about. Scratching your head about the Jeff Driscoll situation. It is him just competing to help determine who the third quarterback is going to be. You got to have a practice guy, right? You got to have a practice squad guy. And Jeff Driscoll could be that practice squad guy. Jake Fromm can be that practice squad guy. And so you want to see who can the practice squad guy be, because they're not carrying three quarterbacks. Can we be honest? They're not carrying three quarterbacks into a game. The third one will be the practice guy who understands the system, who can come in and play right away. So is that Jake Fromm or is that Driscoll? So again, don't get your I want to say arms in a bunch, panties in a bunch, whatever the case may be. It is just a signing. He was available. They thought they liked what they see. All right. He's a guy. He has an arm they can use to throw around, to look at the other defense and become the other quarterback from the other team. He can be that guy. All right. Probably won't get any reps. And we'll just see how he moves and how he flourish. And again, gives him an opportunity and a chance to get another job. In this league. So again, that is the Jeff Driscoll situation. Don't read too much into it. I saw fans on Twitter getting highly upset. Like Washington wastes the pick. Like not a pick. Washington is wasting money. It's not wasting. It's not wasting money. It's picking the best guy up there who's not going to be your starter. You're not going to bring in for example, you're not going to bring in a Cam Newton, right? You're not going to bring in anybody who potentially could be a starter because Pittsburgh is going to have an issue. All right, let's be honest. Pittsburgh is going to have an issue. You have Justin Fields, and you have Russell Wilson. They're going to have who does a locker room listen to? Who's going to be the starter? Who's going to do? Who's that alpha dog right there, right? You think Justin Fields is going to sit and just let Russell Wilson stink up the place? It ain't going to happen. So, again, they're going to have issues. But when you know the pecking order in your locker room, right, the Washington Commanders are sitting there where they know the pecking order. It's number one quarterback is going to be whoever's drafted. Number two is going to be Marcus Mariota. Number three is either going to be Jake Fromm, or Jeff Driscoll. Let them battle it out. Competition, right? Running backs is a different story because you can play multiple running backs on different sets, different packages that you have. But again, day one starter probably be Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson probably your day one starter. Austin Eckler gets some plays in there. Rodriguez gets some little ones later. Again, you want to bring quality guys in the camp as much as you can. And they're bringing veteran guys. I know I keep repeating it. They're bringing veteran guys who are bringing excitement, who's going to bring the team a little bit better. And that's what you're looking for. So, again, Nichols, as I mentioned, Nichols came in. They'll make the team a little bit better as well. So, again, comment in the comment section. Let me know. What are your thoughts? How would you grade the Washington Commanders right now on their free agency? How would you grade them on who they brought in? And do you think there's anybody else out there that you want to see them bring, that you want to see the Commanders bring in, that you think the Commanders should bring in order to get that much better or to create the atmosphere of a winning franchise? Because let's be honest, they can't do anything but go up, right? You can't be as bad. They can't be as bad as they were last year. Just my opinion, right? They can't be as bad as they were last year. You only can move forward. And I think this organization, Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, the coaching staff, Cliff Kingsbury, Witt, defensively, they're putting people in place. They're putting this team in place to be able to win. Not necessarily compete for an NFC championship yet. None of that stuff. Win more than 4 football games, right? Beat who's on your roster. And if the rest of that stuff happens, it happens. But they're building it to be taken one at a time. And I'm interested to see if they're doing this in free agency. The draft that's coming up in a few weeks is going to be very interesting, right? The draft is going to be very interesting and telltale sign how this staff is going to work together, how this team is going to glue together, and the focus of this football team, right? Where this football team is going to go. Are they going to be fast and effective and let these guys just run around and play? Offensively, will they be a spread offense? Will they run the ball much more? It's going to be great things to see. First pick, in my opinion, coming up, quarterback. Second pick should be an offensive lineman. Again, get a young lineman for the future. Third pick, you go either go lineman or linebacker. Don't need anybody in the secondary. You got some guys in the secondary, but the Washington Commanders should be just filling holes, punching holes. Every hole that they have, every hole that they need, as much as you can in free agency, as much as you can in the draft, and then come back and try. And now Dan Quinn and his staff can work OTAs. Now they can start blending and moving this team together. Right now, they got a whole bunch of pieces, like on the chessboard. Now it's to put the pieces together. Well, as one of my mentors say, sometimes you got all the pieces, you got all the people on the bus, but everybody's not in the right seat. It's now for the Commanders. In a couple of weeks, it would be time for the Commanders staff to get. Now you got all the bus riders. Now let's put them in the right seat so we can make this bad boy go. So we can make this thing move. So we can make it move. Because you as a fan, me as a fan, as reporters, journalists, want to see the organization move forward, right? Move past the Ron Rivera era. Move past the Dan Snyder era. You want this team to have, as he said, Josh Harris said when he was in Philadelphia, you want to see this team trust the process, right? You want to see Dan Quinn trust the process. You want to see Kingsbury trust the process. Witt trust the process. We as fans want to see the process moving. But in order to see the process move, we want to see increments of success. And what success is not always wins and losses. Success is also, can you move the ball? Can your quarterback stay upright? Can we not be the third game or the fourth game of the season talking about, man, they're about to break the sack record? All right, that's what it was last year. It's fourth game in. Sam Howell can break the sack, being sacked for the most times. Don't need that. You need a team that from day one that can come out and be aggressive from day one. Everybody in the locker room understand their assignment. Everybody understand their place. Everybody understand they're competing. Everybody understand they're being pushed. Everybody understand they know their assignment. They know what they need to do. They're clear on the assignments. Defensive problems a couple years ago with Jack Del Rio, they wasn't clear on the assignments. People was confused. Make it simple, make it fast. If you look what Dan Quinn did with the Cowboys, they understood the assignment, so they was able to play quick and they was able to play fast and they'll be able to play effectively. If you understand your assignment, you can maneuver. So again, free agents who are brought in, smart guys, some guys who've played for some of these coaches before, understand the dynamics of it, understand how they coach. You're just not bringing guys in just to bring guys in. They're bringing guys in so guys can be successful for this team, this organization to be able to move. They're bringing guys in that have already built relationships with some of the other coaches. And so when they bring in guys in all the built relationships, now it has to trickle down and be able to maneuver and move. So again, the organization is doing some good things. The organization is moving, and every free agent that comes in is not going to stay, but every free agent that comes in is going to work for a job. Everybody's going to work for a job, and that's what you're looking for right now. Is people looking for a job. I mean, I think I got somebody else going to come in, man. I'm bring my man Ray in, man, and let's see what we talk about. Ray, what's going on, brother?
What's happening, man?
Nothing much, man. How you feeling, brother?
I'm good, my dude. I see you excited about these free agency moves. You feel like the teams that have depth.
I'm excited about the free agents, but I'm Friday not because these guys are stars, but I'm excited for the fact they're creating competition in the house. Mm-hmm. And I think competition makes people better, right? Not saying none of these guys are going to be stars. Only one I'm really excited about, really, that I'm pumped, it was Bobby Wagner. I've been talking about Bobby Wagner for years because I thought the linebacker core was struggling. I just like the competition. And I think the competition is what this team lacked in years because people feel like I got a spot. They didn't work as hard. And it didn't make them as effective as they needed to be. So I think that's where you see what Adam Peters doing, bringing people in so they can compete. Everybody's not staying.
Of course. And what you think about the cornerback move, James Pierre coming in? How many defensive backs have been signed so far? He signed at least 3 corners already this whole season.
3 corners been signed. So he's putting people on notice, like, yo, do your job or we're going to get rid of you. Think about it. It doesn't matter if you was a number 1 round draft pick or not. It doesn't matter if you had been here for years, right? We're bringing these guys in to earn a spot, to win a spot, to do their job. Because, again, where's Forbes' head at, right? His confidence was shot last year. He's only going to be a sophomore. Do you put him back out just because he was a first-round draft pick, or do you bring a veteran in who can play?
So that's absolutely true. But it's a nice mix, I think. And you know what? I see a culture change and a culture shift finally starting to happen that didn't happen under Ron Rivera. Because of what you're talking about, Peter just making a lot of moves to where you create depth and you create competition at each position. But also, did you see the report that Dan Quinn had guys move around to get to know other guys, almost like a Remember the Titans type of move where it's like, all right, I want you to sit next to somebody you don't know, because he's trying to create an environment that is healthy and that's different from Washington's past. And I think that's the dopest move that you can do as a head coach, because you know the history of the organization. You know what's happened since Dan Snyder was owner, and now you're trying to finally move forward. And that's something Ron Rivera struggled with. Now doing a move like this, which we've never heard before, with a new group of guys, I think it creates competition, but also it creates a healthy form of competition, if that makes sense. So I like it. I really do. And I think the biggest splash is because a lot of people like the big splash names, but the biggest splash is probably, like you said, Bobby Wagner and maybe Austin Eckler at this point.
Yeah, and that's what it is. But you like that. Well, look what Anthony Lynn did. Anthony Lynn took all the wide receivers, all the running backs out to lunch, right? Or out to dinner was just to know out to dinner, to meet them, to recognize them, to get to know them, to build a relationship with them. As a man, I'm going to build a relationship with another man. So when I have to when we get in the trenches, and I yell at you, it's not personal.
Right.
It becomes business. So you understand my heart. You understand that we're about competition. So I love that. I love the fact that Dan Quinn is making these guys communicate and build a unit. It's a business within a business. You know what I'm saying? I understand guys who want to hold out for contract money and all that other stuff. But when you get to know the people that you hang around and all the new faces, it's not many people on this roster. We talked about it before the end of the season. It's not too many people on this roster that's left from the previous regime. Some of your stars are left, right? Some of your key pieces that couldn't leave, your Terry McLaurin's, your Deron Payne's, your Jonathan Allen's, those guys, your Jahan Dotson's, Those guys are left. You Jake Fromm, who just happened to stick around, right? But as I mentioned earlier, he's the only quarterback that's left. So you're bringing a new group of guys in, and the earlier you can get to start to build that family. You hear about guys all the time. Oh, I'm playing. This is my brother. I'm playing for him. Because now there's no cliques within your team. It's not the old guys and the new guys. It's us. It's the Washington Commanders. And that's what Dan Quinn is doing and his staff is doing. They're getting to know them as people right now so they can play for them later. And I think that's the key.
Addressing areas of weakness, addressing depth, addressing the culture, and also special teams. Special teams is another area that struggled under the previous regime. And you bring in a guy like Anthony Pittman, who with Detroit, that was his primary role, playing on special teams. He knew his role and he played it well. To me, you're starting to build your roster similar to like the Ravens. When you see some of the players, the Ravens get people paid. As Geno Stone. Geno Stone was somebody who struggled to stay off a practice squad. But now Geno Stone, and credit to him because he played so hard, but I credit the Ravens culture. And when you see signings like Anthony Pittman, you're like, okay, I think the Commanders are now trying to not necessarily copy the Baltimore model, but they're doing something very similar. And it's got guys like yourself in the media and also fans alike excited about the moves. And again, they're not splash moves, but people are still like, okay, I like what they're doing. I think Adam Peters is he's probably the biggest splash you've had so far, even bigger than Dan Quinn, because that's who everybody's talking about right now. And that's all I've heard you talk about since this show started for real is what he's doing.
Yeah, because it starts with the top, right? It starts with the head, right? And he's the head. That's the dude they got before they even got a head coach, right? You wanted to get the top dog, right? And because when you get the top dog, you're able to do some things. Look at the receiving core they got right now. They got Kazimir Allen, you got Dami Brown, you got Crowder somehow is still on here. But he's more for as you mentioned, the special teams.
Yeah, Zacchaeus.
Right, the special teams. So is Allen. I think Allen's a more of a special team guy as well. You got your Terry McLaurin, you got your Tinsleys, you got Zacchaeus, right?
Yeah.
He's a journeyman. He's a journeyman. He's been around for 7 years. So can he push? Can he get into the line? Again, being able to compete is competition. Can Washington get that competition there and to make it that much better? And so that's what you're looking at. He's bringing guys in just to compete, and you want guys to compete. The offensive line has gotten better. What he's brought in for the offensive line, he's brought in guys in to make this offensive line better. Because if you can't keep a quarterback upright, you can't win football games.
I guess so. Are you thinking that as we draw closer to the preseason or maybe the OTAs training camp, that you'll start to see a bit more how this roster is going to shape out? Because you've been identifying this whole time, a lot of these guys aren't going to stay around. It's just, again, you're trying to create an environment of competition and see what's the best fit. So when do you expect that the roster will start to take the form and the mold that Dan Quinn and Adam Peters are envisioning?
I think OTAs, when you start seeing OTAs, who comes to OTAs, when OTAs start to come together, when you're able to, have your couple practices, your light practices, and teams get to be able to meet together. And what Ron Rivera got, when he got fined for last year, just doing too much. We'll see how Dan Quinn moves in that realm and see what groupings you have and who gets the understanding, right? And then when training camps take shape, really, who's working with the ones, who's working with the twos. You get to see, because think about it, the roster you have now, there going to be some more players added because the Washington Commanders have a lot of draft picks. And, you have a lot of draft picks, so you're still going to add to this roster. You're going to add at least two more linemen. You're going to add another quarterback. You're going to add maybe another secondary player, right? You're going to add another linebacker if they do it correctly. So this roster is going to expand with younger guys. And then you got to be able to, as a coaching staff, they got to be able to create the right mix. So who's staying, who's going, who's going to move on. And that's the exciting part for us as reporters, us as fans, and to people to look at it and see. I was couldn't wait till you got on, man. Michael Walker, I didn't know too much about him from, a young linebacker from Atlanta, just reading up on a guy. Decent player, can play, but he's a young guy. Yeah,
and he's getting the opportunity here. That's the biggest thing. When you give a guy an opportunity who's already hungry, who made some flashes in Atlanta, you bring him in a Dan Quinn system, that's a good look.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good look.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the defense, of course, but I think many are going to expect that Washington is going to play decent defense because Dan Quinn is the head coach. However, offensively, and this goes back to something that you always preach, is running the football. You're either going to have a rookie quarterback or you're going to have Marcus Mariota starting next season, which is a little bit scary to think of. But regardless, what it means is, and you mentioned offensive line, you're going to have to run the football more effectively. And I think that's something that they're addressing right now. What's your take on what to expect from the running game of the Commanders in 2025, 2024, 2025?
It depends on what Cliff Kingsbury want to do, right? Because you got to be able to run the ball. Brian Robinson works well. You like the Austin Eckler. I like the Austin Eckler because he's able to catch the ball out of the backfield. It gives you a different dynamic. He runs well. And then I was big on Rodriguez last year. So it was a couple of times that he put the ball on the ground, but he still ran hard between the tackles, right? And then you bring in Jeremy McNichols. Saw limited time a little bit in San Francisco because you're playing behind Christian McCaffrey. Got some time, but it's a key situation. McCaffrey's going to be out there. So I think the 4 running backs they have has potential to be a good running back core. But I think Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler are the guys that are going to give you
your top 2 backs, and then you got Rodriguez, like you said, McNichols. And with Eckler, McNichols, and Rodriguez, these are 3 guys who have the capability to catch out the backfield, especially Eckler, we already know. And you're hoping that the red zone is where Cliff Kingsbury will key in on. Now, last year, the red zone wasn't as much of an issue as it had been in previous seasons. However, that's still something that Austin Eckler, when he signed, he said, just know I'm gonna score touchdowns. Like that. That's what I do.
He's a fantasy guy. He's a fantasy guy.
He's trying to get folks excited. But I mean, if you're Washington, you want to be excited because you're thinking about your division. I know I keep mentioning it. I mentioned it on the other show. I mentioned on here. Philly is looking like they're gonna be an offensive team because of the addition of Saquon. You got studs at receiver. You got a good tight end. And then you got the Cowboys who always play well in the regular season. I don't know where you rank CD in terms of receivers in the league, but Washington is right there with New York. It's like, okay, where do they rank in terms of their offense? So running the football, playing strong defense, that's how you compete. You always compete well against Philly, but Dallas last season, that was rough to watch. So I think that's the team you're going to say, you know what, that's our rival. We got to get it together this upcoming year. Dan Quinn knows that squad, so maybe you feel a lot better about facing off against Dallas this upcoming year. And if you're running the football effectively, you can keep that offense off the field. That is awesome. Clock management, that's a big thing. Cliff Kingsbury, I'm not going to say that's something he's known for. Glenn, what you think?
No, it's not something he's known for, man. And that is the only. I think we talked about it last week on the show. We talked about Kingsbury, and his offense. He's doing a spread, right? That means he's quick coming out. What do you do with your running? You got your zone reads, your inside-outside zone. Can he get down underneath his quarter? Can he get underneath center? Depends on who his quarterback is. That's why we were talking about the Jaden Daniels pick is probably where he's going to go because that's what he's been used to. We look at the Kyler Marys, look at the Patrick Mahomes. Got quarterbacks that he's worked with have been mobile-type quarterback guys, right? Not saying that Drake May can't run, all right? Not saying that Drake May can't, but that's not what Drake May does, right? J.J. McCarthy can run. He just didn't have to do it in Michigan because Michigan had a good running game. So that's why J.J. McCarthy's name has started being thrown into the pot because you know what? We can see him. They not me, but they can see him fitting in there. I think it's all smoke and mirrors anyway. I think Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels is that guy because I don't think the fan base is going to get behind J.J. McCarthy. And you're trying to, like as I mentioned, in this organization has been doing things right. Do you want to upset the fan base by putting a J.J. McCarthy in here? And you're not selecting a Jaden Daniels or a Drake May. And I don't think this organization and this leadership so far is going to make that mistake by selecting, even though J.J. McCarthy has won a championship, I don't think you look at the numbers by numbers and who's going to continue to put butts in seats because you think at the end of the day, you got to put butts in those 18 inches. And so you want to make a splash with your quarterback and your guy, and your quarterback has to be the face of your team. And this team hasn't had, they hadn't had a quarterback who's been the face of the team since RG3.
Yeah, it's interesting though. Candy, shout out to her. You already know, friend of the show, made several appearances on here. She said that Adam Peters is really good with his poker face though. Like she has no idea, right now what the Commanders want to do at quarterback because they have not shown their hand at all. I actually think that's a good strategy, but it's also, if you're a Commanders fan, it's a little scary because it could be JJ, although, many of us expect that's not the case, but we don't know. And I don't know if Adam Peters is all about appealing to the fan base at this point. I think he's making good moves because initially, like I said, some people were saying, man, we need some bigger names coming in. But the bigger names don't always mean success. That's been evident in this franchise in the past. And look at even the Stephon Diggs sign earlier. You see how much controversy? It's like, okay, is he going to go in there and be a problem in the locker room? Is he going to mess this young quarterback up who had a phenomenal rookie year? So maybe, just maybe, this is the right method of building a team and not showing your hand and surprising folks. I'm going to tell you this as an Atlanta fan. I didn't know the Atlanta Falcons were going to take Matt Ryan back when they drafted him. It was I want to say right around the day or two before the draft, Rich McKay was starting to show signs that this is who he wanted. And man, at the time, I'm like, nah, draft Brian Brown, get Glenn Dorsey. Let's build that. Let's get that defensive piece. And let's get a quarterback later. This team clearly needs a quarterback, and you got so many names right there at the top. It's hard to tell, and that's, like I said, it could be anxiety-provoking, but it can also be a lot of intrigue because you like some of the guys like Drake May and Jaden Daniels. And Jaden Daniels, according to what Cliff Kingsbury likes to do, looks like the best fit. But Peters, man, nobody knows at this point. Nobody knows yet. It's
nobody knows, which is good because it keeps the buzz around the team. As I mentioned earlier, and we hopped on, this team has been known for scandals, and around this time of year, we're talking about troubles, right? We're talking about who got in trouble. We're talking about what the ownership had done. We're talking about a lot in the past few years, name changes, ownership issues, player issues. So it's good to be able to have an offseason where you're not talking about all that stuff. You're actually talking about football. You're not talking about the sell of the team. You're not talking about the name being changed. You're talking about, hey, this team is bringing teams in, bringing people in to be able to compete in the NFC East, right? We're not talking about Super Bowl because anybody who talks Super Bowl is crazy right now, right? You're crazy. You should be talking about, this team, you said it when you first came on, the people bringing in need to be able to change the culture in the locker room first.
Yeah.
When you change the culture, then success happens. Success is not always measured by wins and losses. I understand that way in the NFL, but guess what? You can probably get more than 4 games standing on your head. You know what I'm saying? But you should be able to get 4 games, right? This team needs to win a game in the division. There was blanked in the division last year.
Whew. Tell me about it. Now, you mentioned
Right.
culture. I think the culture of the fans might change as well, Glenn. I mean, it started last year in training camp when those new seats were added. That was a big deal. And then we're talking about a new stadium in the coming years. Fans can get excited about what's to come. It's just a matter of, like you said,
those talks to open it up.
You hit it on the head, though. You want to have the right face as you move back into the city. That's what we're anticipating. You move back into the city. And when you look at the city, it's like nostalgia. That arcade feel is nostalgic.
Mm-hmm. It is nostalgic, and that bad boy used to rock. So, you know what I'm saying? So you want to be able to, and you rock and sway. So you want to be able to do all that because, again, newness, face, moving in, and it's just how the culture is moving. And so with the new friends, because again, you're gonna have to be able to look at it, and as a fan or as a reporter, you're gonna have to look and say, "Who's that?" Right? Because they brought so many people in that you're gonna have to be like, "Okay, I need to redo my research on who this guy is and why they brought him in and why they're in." So again, it becomes to that standpoint, this team has to continue to move.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna ask you, scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like not confident at all, 10 being beyond confident. Where's your confidence level right now with the way this team is being built? Consider Zach Ertz is also part of the signing group. Remember that.
About a 6.
Okay, and why is it a 6 then? That's not the most confident now. Is it because the quarterback?
I'm gonna tell you why I'm confident, because the quarterback's not there yet, and I don't see a lot of young linemen. You see a lot of older guys who are not proven, and this team has. And I'm a big running football guy, right? I'm a big running football guy, and I see linemen there. But you need linemen who's able to excel. You need linemen who are able to maneuver, move, and you need some depth at the linemen, because if you think about this team, linemen go down every year for this team, and the depth has to be there in the offensive line. So when good teams have depth at the offensive line, they don't miss a beat when a lineman goes down. Kansas City lost the lineman that the Washington got now, and they still won a Super Bowl, right? With the backup guy. You know what I'm saying? So again, you got to be able to have depth at the offensive line. So that's why I give it a 6 because I'm not. Again, go back to the names I don't know. I haven't seen really fully play. I've done research on, but haven't really fully played. So I understand there has to be a learning curve. It may go up higher after the draft, but right now in the draft, I give them a. Right now, the draft was great, but to see how the pieces gel together and the players, I gotta give about a 6 or a 7. Got a question for George.
Okay.
Coming for George. You want to move back into the city with a winner. Doesn't matter what the trigger man is at quarterback. If this team is winning, when they move into the new stadium, this will be great. Exactly. If you got a winner and they move back into DC, dog, it's over. It's over.
Yeah, George, you bring up a good point.
George, you bring a good point, George. But you always want your quarterback to be a face, right? The quarterback is the face. The quarterback is always the face of the team. For most part.
Well, here's the thing though. You got the team up the road, Glenn. Ray Lewis was the face. They had Trent Dilfer at quarterback. At one point, they had Tony Banks, but that defense was so good. I mean, I know that's not always, that's rare, I guess. That's not always the case for most teams. But I guess to George's point, if you're winning games, people are going to come see you. They don't care if Gardner Minshew's at quarterback. If you're winning games, you need somebody exciting. Though I do think you need somebody to sell, like sell tickets. Like Sean Taylor was that guy. Regardless of whether he was the quarterback or not, he was that guy. People knew that they could depend on Sean Taylor. I remember Wole, after Dallas beat Washington, he said we ain't had Sean Taylor in this game. It was that big of a deal, and we're talking about a DB. So I mean, maybe it doesn't have to be the quarterback. I'm not sure, but I'm not disagreeing with you, bro. I'm just saying, winning matters a whole lot, especially moving back home.
And I'm not saying about as far as play. I mean, just as far as the face, because for this organization, and George brings up a point, and we'll get to that. Theismann has been the phrase franchise, right? Rippon wasn't bad. People like Rippon, and people got behind Doug Williams. You know what I'm saying? In the recent years, we had Kirk Cousins. Everybody wasn't behind Kirk Cousins, right? Let's be honest. I mean, am I lying? Everybody wasn't behind Kirk Cousins, right? The organization wasn't behind Kirk Cousins. They kept franchising him. They wouldn't give him a contract, right?
Yeah.
So everybody wasn't around. Everybody wasn't behind Heineke, right? Everybody wasn't behind Fitzpatrick. Everybody wasn't behind Alex Smith, right? Everybody wasn't behind Sam Howell. Only time you can go back to it was RG3 and in the first year that people was behind him. Coming into the second year, a little bit more so. Again, but you look at teams who are pretty good, who win Super Bowls. Kansas City, face of the franchise. Who is it?
Mahomes.
Went with New England. Who's the face of the franchise?
Tom Brady, yeah.
Brady went down to Tampa Bay. Who's the face of the franchise? Tom Brady. You know what I'm saying? So you look at those teams who win Super Bowls, even Seattle, Russell Wilson was the face of that franchise.
True. I mean, for the most part, you're right. The quarterback is the face. You're right. I agree with that. I'm not disagreeing. Now George brings up an interesting point. The history of this franchise says otherwise. However, I think it will be a hard sell, even if you're, let's say, 5-3 at the halfway point, or 5-4, because I know it's 17 games now, and you got Mariota as your starter. I'm sure people will still be calling for whoever that backup is, whether it's Jaden Daniels or JJ McCarthy. But sustainable success, right? We always talk about that. I always talk about that. And I look at Pittsburgh. Now, Pittsburgh had a face. They had Ben Roethlisberger. I understand that. But at the same time, can you also say that Mike Tomlin is kind of the face? He's been a coach for over a decade, never missed the playoffs. So it's like, what do you want as fans? And I think these fans want a winner more than they do a face, if I had to lean one way. What about you? Winner or face?
The fans want winners. They want winners.
Absolutely.
They want winners. Everybody want a winner, right? It doesn't matter. Like you mentioned earlier, Trent Dilfer. Nobody could care less about Trent Dilfer. They just know that year the Baltimore Ravens won a Super Bowl. I think it was 99, 2000. They won a Super Bowl. Yeah. So you want that to carry it on, but again, you don't necessarily need it. You need somebody. That's why the big thing about game manager is always a question. We want a game manager. If a game manager takes you to a Super Bowl, do anybody call him a game manager?
Yeah, speaking of game managers, look at George. Look, I'm going to have a hard time with JJ McCarthy, even if we trade back. But I can also look at what Adam Peters built in San Fran, and they could have easily won two Super Bowls with quarterbacks that weren't the face. Great point, George.
Definitely.
The only like scenario I could think of that you wouldn't want is the certain scenario that the Giants had with Kerry Collins. You went to a Super Bowl, but there was no faith in Kerry Collins. A lot of people were not happy with him at quarterback. But at the same time, I guess you would rather be competing for a championship no matter what, as opposed to every year going home the way you had with a 4 or 5 win team.
Yeah, you take a manager. I mean, you take anybody that can get you to that next level, right? Anybody that can get you to the next level. You're always gonna have reporters saying you need a face or you need this. Well, when I say face of the franchise, I'm not necessarily talking about the play on the field, or I'm thinking about the one that can bring butts that you want to see, right? Who bring butts and seats, who does something electric, who does something.
That's the guy, I think. I really do. Although Drake made his upside,
the buzz that gets around you that gets talk about it, because you're not getting Caleb Williams, right?
Nope.
And I got a whole different take on Caleb Williams because I don't, even though he might be the number 1 pick, I don't think he's the best quarterback.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. If you look at a lot of mock drafts, if you look at a lot of analysts who are ranking the quarterbacks, he's number 2 or even number 3 in some. So I don't think it's like a dramatic take or anything that's out of the ordinary. Like I wasn't a Bryce Young fan. I told Wally that long before the draft came around, for different reasons. But anyway, moving away from it, again, you talking about butts and seats, and you talking about the wow factor. If you draft Jaden Daniels, I can almost guarantee you combine that with the culture shift, training camp is going to be a hot ticket, and that's where you start the buzz right there. And once you get the fans engaged early, and you provide some type of hope, as like I said, some type of buzz, I think you win the offseason. You're already winning because you're making a lot of moves, you're creating depth, all the stuff we're already discussing. So now you just have to add that piece that many people want on the team. And George is saying J.J. McCarthy ain't it. See, if you draft J.J. McCarthy, I think that people may feel like George. Most people, they may lean toward him. However, if he starts to produce on the field, you'll get that delayed gratification type of thing. But if you draft Daniels, I think right from the gates, I think people will come out and say, you know what, I want to see this team. I want to see what he's going to do. I think also you get the attention of the other squads in your division if you draft Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, because they have to prepare for what Washington struggled with, an athletic mobile quarterback, right? Look when the Washington organization plays Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, they struggled with Jalen Hurts, right? Because he's athletic, he's mobile.
And Daniel Jones.
and Daniel Jones, right? And Daniel Jones. So they struggle with those type of quarterbacks. And so the other defenses now have to deal with that type of quarterback as well. George says this, the other thing we have to keep in mind, the team is going to be good this year. The team isn't going to be good this year or next. So the QB is going to grow as Adam Peters turns this roster over and rebuilds it. I think the team define good because I define good not by wins and losses, right? Especially when you get this team who really wasn't in football games, who lost to Owen, whatever Bears team. To me, good is being able to compete, to keep your quarterback upright, to have some guys to have some success, to see some glimpses, to know that you're moving in the right direction. I think I always talk about the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions got where they were at because they built it correctly, right? You could see the improvement every year with the Detroit Lions as they was improving. Dan Campbell and guys were improving the Detroit Lions. So when we say isn't going to be good, if they win more than 4 football games or move 5 football games and then the conversation, that's a good season. I'm not looking for as a reporter or fan, I'm not looking for playoffs, right? I'm looking for improvement in the culture, in the play on the field, in the hungerness of the guys, in the motivation and coaching of the coaches. You don't need coaches who stand there like this.
No,
right?
That is over with, bro. That's why I said the culture is a big deal, man. You round the nose with that one. But listen, I'm not gonna lie to you, and I said this back in the COVID year, or was Chase Young's rookie year? That was the COVID year, right? Yeah, it was. There was no fans in the stands that season. I said I felt like now this division was bad that year, but I said I felt like this could be a playoff team with the culture shift. I feel like they could sneak up on some people this season. I really do, because the NFC, Glenn, think about it. The NFC is wide open. We don't know. Detroit looked really good last year. The Packers came on strong at the end of the year, but these aren't teams that you feel like you can't necessarily compete with, right? So why can't even with a rookie quarterback, why can't you compete at a high level, especially considering while your division is pretty good, people got to stay healthy. Saquon's got to stay healthy. Devontae Smith's got to stay healthy. Dak Prescott, he's got to stay healthy. What's their running game going to look like in Dallas? What's their team going to look like in general? What's the defense going to look like with the new defensive coordinator? There's a lot of changes within the division and the NFC, which says, you know what? I'm not going to guarantee that it's going to be a slow rebuild. This team could surprise a lot of people. And I think low expectations makes that even better for the fans.
I think low expectations and also the schedule. You know, who are they playing next year? I think they got the Carolina Panthers on the schedule next year. I'm just being honest. You got Carolina, you got a Tennessee team on the roster next year. You got a Bears team who will probably have a rookie quarterback next year, right?
Probably.
We'll have a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
You're dealing with a Cardinal team where you don't know what team you're going to get, right? So, excuse me. You have different teams. You got a Tampa Bay team, right? I know people say they paid what's my man down there? Baker Mayfield. They paid Baker Mayfield. So I'm gonna agree with you, George. I'm gonna put George comment back up here again. I'm not saying that they won't win 9 or 10 games. I'm not saying they're a 9 or 10 game winning team. But guess what? A 7-10 is better than a 4 and 13. Better than 4 and 13, right? They won't get it. I'll put it this way: this team won't be in this conversation for number 2 draft pick next year.
Yeah, I think we could all agree on that. But my thing is, if the defense, along with the new coach and new culture, and Bobby Wagner, who I think is going to bring sort of a championship type of mentality, I believe that will keep them in games, and they can steal some games that maybe people think they're not supposed to win. And that's going to be fun. You're not going to go winless in the division, Glenn. We can guarantee that. So 2 things we can guarantee. You're not going to be in a top 2 pick. You're not going to have the ability to have a top 2 pick next year, and also, unless you trade. And also, you're not going to go winless in your division again.
You're not going to go winless.
It's not happening.
Yeah, I can guarantee those 2 things are not going to happen. And I think I think the third thing we can guarantee that the attitude that the first series of the game, you can tell that this team is different. Because with Ron Rivera, this team would not start slow.
That's gonna be fun. Now that's gonna be interesting because we don't know what they're gonna look like offensively. Like we're assuming again they're gonna be a strong run football team, a run first team because they're trying to develop a quarterback, or you have a journeyman back there, which hopefully Mariota won't start. Just start your rookie, man. But anyway, if you let's say opening week you defer, game 1 you defer, that's gonna be the biggest indication that this is a complete shift because most teams will march down and score on that opening possession against the Ron Rivera coach, Washington Commanders. Under Dan Quinn, I just do not see that happening. And again, just the way he's dealing with the players. Again, he's a players coach. We've all been saying that. I believe they're going to really want to play for this dude, and the depth that they're creating is going to equate to an environment where the next man up mentality is going to be real. Because people were scared, like, oh man, we got what's his name, Wild Goose in the lineup now, and we're in trouble. We now Cody Barton is out. Who's going to fill that spot? It was scary when you saw injuries. It was scary with some of the starters defensively because they struggled so bad. But under Adam Peters and now again this new coaching staff, we might have had that issue. You mentioned Anthony Lynn. I think he's a great addition, and many of you have already said that, including Candy. Shout out to her again. So yeah, it comes down to who's going to be that QB, baby. Who's going to be the one that's going to be on the Eastern Motors commercials, Glenn? Who's going to be on the Lido's commercials? You got to replace Chase Young. You excited about that part?
Yeah, Chase is getting the bag. He's stealing money in New Orleans, but that's a whole different conversation.
Hey, go ahead, bro.
That's a whole different conversation. I don't know. I mean, Brian Robinson Jr. gets the Eastern Motors commercial. Terry's already on him, right? You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to get somebody, and whoever the new quarterback is going to get an Eastern Motors commercial.
J.J. McCarthy at Lido's Pizza. Tell them how sweet the sauce is.
J.J. McCarthy can't go. J.J. McCarthy can't do an Eastern Motors commercial, bruh. You can't see. I can't see J.J. McCarthy doing Eastern Motors. You know what I'm saying? But trust the process. Smoke and sports says that the culture change is key. We're finally drafting a guy that is in the green room on draft day, which is good. He's right. He's not out fishing. He's not hanging out at the club. Whatever case may be. Where was he? God rest his soul. Dwayne Haskins was at the bowling alley. When he got drafted. So you got somebody who's actually going to be there. So I think that's the key there too, man.
Yeah, folks are all in on this culture. I agree. And Dan Quinn is showing everything that you need to see. Magic Johnson started that last year, holding the team accountable, coming out in public right after questioning the heart of the team, saying this team showed no heart in some of those games. Listen, hey, if I'm a Washington fan, I'm starting to get excited. This is where you start to get excited. And then you wait, though. It's that cautionary excitement to say, okay, let's see the product on the field. Not preseason, but that opening series. I hope they defer, and I hope that defense forces like a 3-and-out and gets a sack.
That's what you want to see. You want to see the difference in there. And then you want to see – I want to see training camp too, right? And when I say want to see training camp, not necessarily training camp, preseason games, I want to see how the camp flows, the excitement, right? Not from just the fans that show up, but from the players, right? The players that have been around, the players, the Terry McLaurin, the Deron Payne, the Jonathan Allens, the Jeremy Reeves, right? Those guys, I want to see how their culture shifts change and their body language has changed under the new coaching staff.
Hey, Glenn, you know what? And to the listeners, you know who was on Coach Prime's list in terms of where he would allow Shedeur to go? Washington.
Commanders.
Commanders are on that list. So let's just say you trade back, hypothetically. Let's have some fun. You don't get one of these guys up top, and then next season you draft Shedeur. How you feeling about that potential? Shedeur looks like he's gonna be a star, my dude.
Shedeur's gonna be he's ready to be an NFL quarterback, right? If you Shedeur, first of all, if you Shedeur, you're not leaving Colorado because your NIL deal is getting you a whole bunch of money, right? you're getting paid. That's the whole different story.
He always gonna have money, Glenn. That don't matter. He always gonna have.
Yeah, it's his money, right? It's not daddy's money. It's his money, right? His name is on there. That's what I said about Angel Reese. I kind of got heartbroken when she went to WNBA. Like, girl, you making more money. You gonna make more money in college than you do in the WNBA. Anyway, that's a whole different show, whole different conversation.
Man,
but again,
come on, Glenn. You put that. You talking about Eastern mode? You talking about fitting into the culture of the DMV? Shedeur is your guy, man.
Shedeur is your guy. Yeah. Yo, Shedeur is your guy.
Bad anyway, according to George, next season. Why not wait for Shedeur? Shoot, that's a good scenario right there.
But George says this: you have to be drafting number 1 to get Shedeur.
Ooh, good point. Good point.
Thank you, George. Because I was getting there, George. You got to be drafting number 1 to get Shedeur. That's the only reason. That's the only reason Shedeur didn't even come out this year.
You're not getting Shedeur
because he knew he wasn't going to be number 1. Shedeur, Deion Sanders.
No, he didn't want him going to Chicago. He did not want him going to the Bears.
Well, he wasn't going to Chicago with the quarterbacks in the league. He wasn't going to get. Caleb Williams was always going to be number 1. Shedeur was going to be number 2 or 3.
Oh, well, maybe you get Travis Hunter next year then, George. Maybe you get his man because he's supposed to be top 5. Both of them supposed to be top 5 next season. So maybe you get one of them dogs out of there. But I agree with that, George. I didn't think about that possibility.
No. Yo, you don't want top 5. You want the team to do better than the top 5. I'm
sorry.
Ooh,
look at the question, Glenn. Whose ceiling is higher, Jaden or Shedeur? Hey, I think Shedeur. Shedeur he's been consistent from the beginning, from the jump. You know what I mean? Jaden Daniels took a couple years to develop, if you ask me. No offense to him. I think he's awesome. I think he'll pack training camp out. Again, I got love for Jaden Daniels. But I think Shedeur Sanders and the pedigree he has, that pro level, that pro style pedigree that he brings to the table. And again, he's been consistent at both levels. I think Shedeur's ceiling is higher. I agree, George.
I'm gonna tell you, Shedeur's
man, that might get me excited. My man Mo said I'm interested. Listen, you get Shedeur as your quarterback. They're a year too early to be in this position. Dang.
Yeah. Shedeur
would be perfect. And he's on that list. Like I said, man. Never know.
His body type and the way he plays remind me of Cam Newton.
I ain't gonna lie. Again, everybody knows who I root for. The Falcons traded the house to get Vic. You know what I'm saying? Anything is possible. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people question that. They question the Julio Jones trade too because of the history of big trades. Ricky Williams, Herschel Walker, those didn't work out when teams traded an abundance to get that person. But if we're talking about Shedeur Sanders, I think it'd be worth it. But I guess at this point,
it almost worked out in Atlanta. It almost worked out in Atlanta for you guys. It almost worked out.
It did, hey, some people had to mature first, and I get that. But ain't no point of going back in the past. It's all good. It's about the Commanders this season, and we're talking culture, face of franchise. But from what we've seen, the culture is the most important, and Dan Quinn is doing that. You establish the right culture, kind of what George is saying, kind of what Baltimore shows every season. Where they play hard, even in the preseason, man. Shout out to the Commanders for breaking that streak last year. But you establish the right culture. It don't matter if you got Geno Stone or if you got Geno Smith, you're going to have a team that's going to be able to win, and you're going to have a packed stadium. And you got the blueprint. Watch. Somebody eloquently pointed out on this platform that really the Ravens stole the old Washington Redskins Joe Gibbs success model. Stole it.
Yeah.
Because think about what George pointed out. Skins didn't have a quarterback back in the day, but they were constantly winning Super Bowls. Mm-hmm. And Baltimore copied that blueprint. And look at what it's resulted into, man. So
people forget
you know what? Reclaim the culture. Reclaim it.
Reclaim the culture. Reclaim it. Doug Williams wasn't the starter. Doug Williams was the backup that won Super Bowl. Jay Schroeder was the starter.
Facts.
Schroeder was the starter. Facts. Doug was the backup.
You know what I'm saying? Hey.
Mark Rip, you see what I'm saying? So it's I get it. So again, it's good that it's fun. It's good that we can discuss those things. You made me think about the Shedeur Sanders situation really hard.
I know it's fun, but you know what though? Think about this whole face of the franchise thing. Back then, who can you say was the face? It was everybody. It was Darryl Green. It was Art Monk. It was Ricky Sanders. It was the posse. It was Gary Clark. It was Charles Mann. It was Wilbur Marshall. They had so many guys. It was a team dynamic that people wanted to see that team. So
the O-line, the
Hog that way.
The Hogs were the face. You had the Hogs. The O-lineman.
Who was the face? Who was the face, Glenn? You can't answer it because it was a team. Dang, my bad. It was a team. It was a team dynamic back then, bro. But Shedeur, you bring him in, he's the face. I'm going back to it.
You bring Shedeur in, he a face. And you just go ahead and take the C off the Commanders jersey and just put a D on that bad boy.
Yeah, if you're gonna be bad, just go all the way in there. But I don't see it happening. But
this team, George brought a good point. The greatest point I think of the night was this team is not going to be in that
position. We already said that's a guarantee. You're going to win the division next season. The Washington Browns was competing in December and January for playoffs and championships every single year. Thank you, George. I love the historians. Yeah. See, that's what the young people don't know. The young people hear the stories. We actually lived it. And I mean, we talk about the school system in Virginia, Maryland, D.C. was better because the Washington franchise was good. I was about to call them the C word, and that's disrespectful to those guys back then. And you know what? Shout out to Allen.
And one thing about this too,
Allen tried to bring back the alumni and all. Dan Snyder tried. It just didn't work. Even when you unveiled the name Commanders, you saw a lot of the former players. It didn't work. It's going to have to be a new culture that is established by Dan Quinn that almost mirrors what we're discussing. That's going to reclaim it. Joe Gibbs 2.0 kind of brought that feel back, but he had to adjust to the game and how it was played now as opposed to when he was coaching back in the 90s.
You see a lot of the older guys say they're not Commanders, they're Redskins. You see when they do interviews, they say, I'm a Washington Redskin player. I'm not a Commander player. I'm a Washington
Look at the jerseys in the crowd. You know, I mean, we've all attended games, covered games. Look at the jerseys in the crowd. So reclaiming that, man, reclaim it. That needs to be the hashtag. Reclaim it. Make Washington great again.
Make Washington great again.
Yeah.
On that note,
make this franchise great again, bro.
I think they're on the right road. This franchise is on the right path to become great again. It may take a couple years, as George talked about. It may take a while, but I think this franchise and this organization and the people they have in place are moving in the right direction to be great. I think I'm not gonna say it till the end of the season. Some people, there's a curse in Washington. I think that curse is about to be broken. Because I just look at, again, you got to bring curse breakers with you. Magic Johnson, everything Magic Johnson has touched has won a championship. Everything he's owned, he has won a championship, right? So they're going to bring in culture. They're going to bring in people to have the conversation. Even Josh Harris, most things he touched, they've been in the conversation, right? They've gotten some good pieces. The injuries have stopped the 76ers with Joel Embiid. The Denver, the Dallas, New Jersey Devils, they've been in the conversation at one point since he has been the owner. So again,
sustained success, my guy. That's what it's all about. You know what I'm saying? But I would love. I'm not. Again, I'm talking about the past. I'm not big about the face right now necessarily. Although I did say that you have to get it right, not because of the face of the franchise per se, and I may have said that before, so I don't want to contradict myself when we had the discussion with Lou. But what I mean is this team has been looking for the answer at quarterback. Glenn, you just named so many names. You were like Alex Smith, Taylor Heineke. The names you rattled off just in the last several years, this team needs stability at the quarterback position so bad. And that's kind of where I'm coming from right now. Although the face is cool and all, but when I would compare it to the old culture and the old success that this team or this franchise had, man, it could be collective. But a winner, George pointed that out, a winning culture, combine the two, and you're going to do this.
That's it. Hey, winning culture, what you do. Hey, great, man. Thanks for topping in tonight. We appreciate you, brother. It's always a pleasure. We can hold it down when Wole not here, man.
For sure. He doing his thing, man. He holding it down for y'all, man. Covering those Wizards tonight.
Yeah, he is covering the Wizards tonight. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts. We know they're going away. Just search All Burgundy and Gold Everything. Also tweet us at ABG_everything. Hit us up on IG at ABG_everything. And like our All Burgundy and Gold Everything Facebook page. Make sure you subscribe to your All Burgundy and Gold Everything YouTube channel as well. And make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, that bell notification, so you don't miss any of our shows. We're going to be bringing you Washington Commanders reports all throughout the year. Podcast ain't going anywhere. YouTube ain't going anywhere. Twitter ain't going anywhere. Just keep us up. If you like more live shows, hit the subscribe button. Let us know that you like live shows, and we'll do more live shows for you. Once again, appreciate you guys. Thank y'all, and we're out.